This is the front curtain. It is actually the royal crest of Elizabeth, but with a few changes. Instead of the lion facing the griffin, the two of them are looking out and guarding and dribbling blood. And we go then into Whitehall, and it is very stylized, all the court in white.
Can I just explain the opening scene of the opera is based on the historical event of the wooing of Elizabeth by Alexandre, Duke of Anjou, which was her last throw at actually seriously getting married. And when our opera opens, then this is the scene that we're celebrating.
The other nice thing about this opera is it gives you the chance to do open set changes. So we cross-fly from this huge hothouse court in all its opulence to the bleakness of the landscape round Fotheringay, and
we're sort of jumping ourselves at one of the features of the production, which is we're playing the correct historical ages. So we're imagining that the first act, Mary is in her maybe early 30s and Elizabeth is in her early 40s, and then over the intermission, everyone ages 10 years plus, and we actually finish with Mary at her historical age of 44. She just turned 44 when she was executed, but physically the deprivations of incarceration had made her body age prematurely, and physically she had the body of a woman in her 60s.
Beginning of Act 2, again taking the motive of the crest, Elizabeth has become the Gloriana figure, but very, very old, is still being indecisive about whether she should sign for Mary's death. And it's the same crest, but it's rusting and it's dying. The power is leaving it. And she's becoming this propped up character who is really held together by the costumes she wears, all of which, of course, we know from portraiture. We then, again, go straight into the room with Mary in her prison confessing to Talbot. This is huge artistic license, but I wanted a very, very bleak, dark space. And the writing on the wall kind of reflects the almost over 300 letters that Mary, in her years of imprisonment, wrote to Elizabeth, begging her that she had not plotted against her life and whatever. So this is her confession scene, which then leads us into the execution scene. This is not a model, it's a real thing. Each of the principal ladies have 3 costumes, so you can kind of juxtapose where they were in their lives when certain things happened. So in Whitehall, which is the red and white, this is Elizabeth. She may not be as young as she's trying to look. So you have to get this feeling that she's already realizing she's slightly into the grande dame, but she's going to hold on to being a vivacious young girl for as long as she can. She then moves into the hunting costume where she meets Mary, and this is absolute power dressing at its height.
Yeah, this is pure Sheila, a very, very typically romantic framework for the confrontation of the two queens is on a hunt with Elizabeth in hunting garb and the unwary Mary as the quarry, really, of this hunt.
Everybody is armed to kill wild boar, and the only person that's standing there with nothing except a little black dress is Mary. And then we go to the final, the second act costume, which is her Gloriana costume, and we see her being dressed in this on stage. This is Leicester, whose first arrival is in armour. He's just come from the tilt yard, again power dressing to turn up in front of his queen. And then this is him at the end of the opera, at the execution of Mary, where he is of course aged and is distraught at the events and how they've turned. This is Mary. The thing that's not in the actual costume are the big sleeves, because I realise that's at least many years before in period. And this is her pretty iconic costume, which we see in many of the portraits. That's the confession, and this is before her execution. and then the red shift.
Yeah, the historical detail of the red and colour of Catholic martyrdom that we know historically she died in.
I mean, if there's a colour kind of travel through the piece, it's like a triangle. It starts with the red and white and gets progressively darker, darker, darker into black, and then right at the end, you see this again, the splash of red as she goes to her death.